Welcome to Gridiron Garage, episode 57, Sports Edition with the boys. Thank you for listening. It is now Tuesday. You're listening to Gridiron Garage. What's up? This is your host, Zach Curtis.
What's up, dude?
And I'm the co-host, Jake Lawhorn. What's going on, baby?
Nothing much, man. We're missing our other buddy at Griffin Wyman. We actually had to fire him.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Talk too fast.
Yeah, he did talk way too fast. But yeah,
I talk too slow. It's fine.
we're missing at Big Daddy Griff. He's on vacation with his family. But it's sports, man. It's sports. Gridiron Garage.
Sports never end unless it's a pandemic.
Yeah. And then I heard that was a great time to start a sports podcast, to be honest with you, during the pandemic.
But we're seeing out the other side, and the sports are kicking right now.
They are kicking.
Get into it.
So I just want to jump to, this is kind of a few things down, but fire David Bell. I'm sick and tired of his shit, bro.
Dude, I can think way back to like last week when I was on the podcast saying, this year's different.
Yeah.
The Reds are different.
Yeah.
They're fighting.
And I told you what? That it wasn't going to fucking last.
Oh,
they
my
went
God.
From first to last in the NL Central, bro. First to last.
Last place. Behind
the Pirates.
The Pirates are 500 right now.
The Pirates are garbage, and the Reds are behind them right now.
The Reds literally beat the Pirates by like 25 runs in 3 games. Now they're behind the Pirates.
Dude, it's embarrassing.
I think maybe, I don't know. I don't have anything to say. Like, there's just something about being a Cincinnati sports fan. They know how to grab you and get your attention and say, look what we could do. And you get your hopes up. Then they fucking crush it.
Dude, it's just like watching UC play Georgia in football. Literally 59 minutes and 58 seconds of winning football. And then the last 2 seconds is just dagger.
There's just no hope if you live in Cincinnati and you want to root for your home team.
There's none.
If I had to give any advice to any younger listeners out there,
go be a Dodgers fan.
pick a different fucking team, dude. The Reds will let you down time after time. The Bengals will let you down time. Well, next year might be different.
No.
See, this is how they get your hopes up.
This is how they get your hopes up.
This is how they do it.
But
they say, look, we fixed the line. And you're like, they fixed it. That was the problem last year.
Yeah, but
there's going to be a new problem this year.
It's going to be the same problem as the last 2 seasons, and that's the head coach. I don't know why or who I need to talk to. Maybe I need to write a letter to the mayor of Cincinnati, but we need to get rid of the head coaches in Cincinnati. They're not the guys. UC's basketball was like, all right, fuck this guy. We're getting him out of here. Reds need to do that. The Bengals need to do that. Probably the Cyclones. I mean, shit, I haven't been following them, but they need to get their head coach out of here, man. But it sucks being a Reds fan. It honestly sucks. Like, I got so excited.
I was excited, dude. They were the hottest offense in the entire league. I think they're still up there. Their bullpen has just let them down time after time after time.
I had a feeling that they weren't going to stay this hot, but I didn't think it was going to be this drastic of a change. Because think of like...
They literally went... I can't remember what their win streak was, but they went like a 7-game win streak straight to a 7-game losing streak.
But yeah, think about this.
Like,
so
how does that happen?
You have a rookie hitter who's just dominating. Eventually, somebody's going to be like, all right, I've watched enough film to know that like this dude likes to hit outside balls.
Jonathan India?
Yeah, we're not going to throw him outside balls.
They definitely fixed that problem. They've been getting Jonathan India.
So the other teams will be like, oh shit, the Reds are literally going to swing at every pitch that's thrown in the zone. Like maybe we shouldn't do that. And then it, screwed the Reds over. But we went from, in 1 week, dude, this is what it's like to be a Cincinnati fan. We went from like, oh shit, we might win the World Series to, oh shit, wins our first round pick. Oh man.
So, I don't know.
It's sad.
I don't know if I can blame David Bell for his bullpen literally giving up like so many runs and walks.
He hires the bullpen coach, doesn't he? I'm blaming him.
But the starting pitch, is that a different coach from the starting pitching coach?
Yeah, I mean it's all the pitching coach, I would assume.
The starting pitching is good.
Yeah?
That coach, that guy.
Yeah, the bullpen guy.
The bullpen guy.
Gotta go.
Shoo-wee.
Gotta go. I don't know if it's like the camaraderie or what. You know what a bullpen catcher makes? A lot of money.
I think it was like $100,000, $200,000 or something.
I'm pretty sure they make league minimum, and that's like $400,000 the last time I looked.
Dang.
Just to be a bullpen catcher. I'm
It'd
gonna
be
look it
easy.
up. Would it
They'd
though?
be pissed at you though. Like if you were just acting like a douchebag, if you were not framing their shit, they wouldn't care, right? They're just in a bullpen.
Let's see here. Maybe not.
I think there's a stat that they need more metrics on framing pitches. I need that to be a more important stat.
So here's my thing.
The catcher frame. Because even as a homer, I've seen many pitches Tucker Barnhart has poorly framed that have been in the Fox track strike zone, but not a strike because I felt like Tucker had a poor job framing it. So I want to see more emphasis on the stats of balls called for strikes and strikes called for balls.
That's a stat that matters.
I think it is a stat that matters.
I think it does,
if
too.
you can change an individual bat, I mean, like that. I mean, if you go from 2-1 to 3-0, it's like, that's a big difference.
Right.
Or any point in the count, really. Just a ball to a strike. That's a huge difference that a catcher can make.
So my thing with the strike zone and framing pitches, like, do I think it helps? Yes. But do I think that it makes the umpire look bad if he's calling balls and strikes based off of a frame of a catcher? Yes. Because obviously we know the strike zone starts at the beginning of the plate. Mm-hmm. So if by the time it gets to the catcher, it's no longer a strike or a ball.
Yeah.
It's where it crosses the front of the plate. And so I think that, like, framing pitches is good, but it's also kind of irrelevant if you have a good umpire. Like, he's going to call where the ball comes across the front of the plate. So
just deceiving the umpire. But I mean, it is a stat that they do have. Balls called for strikes and strikes called for balls for a catcher. And I think it should be emphasized a little bit more.
I think so too.
I think it should be pretty important because it can swing one at bat, and one at bat can swing an entire game.
Right.
As we've seen.
What about Madison Bumgarner's catcher?
Madison Bumgarner gets an unofficial, doesn't count, doesn't go in the record books at all, an unofficial 7-inning no-hitter. So basically, for those who don't know, the MLB implemented doubleheaders to be 7 innings. So Madison Bumgarner came in. He actually had a decent pitch count where he could have went 9-2. So Madison Bumgarner threw no hit through 7 innings, complete game, over, does not get a no-hitter in the stat book. And obviously they interviewed Bumgarner, and he's like, I would have went on 9. They always say that. On the contrary, because Madison Bumgarner has 0 career no-hitters, and he has made it through the 7th inning with a no-hitter 4 times.
Ooh. So he's not a late game pitcher?
No, he has 4 1-hitters.
Huh.
Let me get this right. He has 4 1-hitters. 3 of those 1-hitters, the hits have came past the 7th inning. So if you look at a stat book, you'd say, bitch, you lying. You're going to give up a hit in the 9th. We know it. Doesn't that suck, though? So like, you're a pitcher and you make it so far. You make it all the way to the 9th inning and give up a hit.
So my question is, that's kind of shitty that the MLB wants to do these 7-inning doubleheaders.
But they don't let them go in the record book.
Yeah, but they don't let them. Why?
I'm on defense here because if you did count all the 7, like if you count how many pitchers have went through 7 with a no-hit, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Like it's like incredibly a lot more than how many went through 9 with no hits. Mm-hmm. So you would be giving Madison Bumgarner a no-hitter in the record book for doing something that pitchers do all the time, getting no recognition for.
Right.
At the same time, you pitch a complete game no-hitter. The game's over. There's no hits in an entire game. Literally the definition of a no-hitter, and you get no respect for the no-hitter.
Yeah, that's kind of
I'm like in the middle. It kind of sucks because he doesn't get the credit. He didn't give up or any hits. Could he have went 2 more innings and not given up a hit? Probably. Maybe not. In his career, he hasn't.
What's going on with the MLB, dude? I feel like Rob Manfred is just screwing the game over.
I do like the 7-inning no-hitters, or 7-inning games, but
I like the no-hitters too.
I did not think about a 7-inning no-hitter and how a pitcher would feel.
So was Madison Bumgarner pissed?
He didn't seem to be too mad. He kind of was upset because he said that he would go another 2 and not give up a hit, obviously.
But, I mean...
I think he's kind of upset that it doesn't count. Like, he threw a no-hitter and it doesn't count at all.
Yeah.
Like, no one... Like, if you look up right now, no-hitters, he's not going to come up.
You know who
look up in the record book, who was the last 5 no-hitters, you're not going to see Madison Bumgarner's name in there.
You know who has 2 no-hitters? I think 2.
Homer Bailey?
Yeah, isn't that wild?
Yeah.
So, I don't know what happened at the end of his Red stint, but, dude, he was a very good pitcher, like, for a few years.
They paid him money and he sucked.
Yeah, and then I think he got hurt. Wasn't that what it was? And then he kind of just never came back from that.
I'm not sure.
But, I mean, to Griff's point, that makes a shitty player if you get hurt.
I mean, if you should be so talented. If you get hundreds of millions of dollar contracts, that you should be able to perform.
Fun fact, he went to the same personal trainer that I went to.
Yeah?
Yeah. Him, Tyler Eifert, Randy Bullock, Dalton.
Did they use the suction cup thing?
I don't know. Mine was just a weight thing. Or like a physical weight, not like a gym weight.
Anyway, the Reds are terrible.
They are terrible.
And if they pay someone a lot of money, they're going to be terrible.
I mean, they're going to be terrible either way.
The Reds are terrible, guys.
Dude, they literally haven't won
7 straight.
1995.
7 straight losses. Anyways,
I don't even want to continue thinking about how bad the Reds are.
so we're going to move on from the Reds, and we're going to focus on something that
We're not moving on from the Reds because Trevor Bauer is at the Dodgers.
we're going to move on to what the MLB is focusing on, and they are shoving it down my throat. They're shoving it down your throat. You listening, the MLB is shoving this down your throat, and that's the Dodgers versus the Padres. You realize, like, they play each other a lot.
Yeah, they do. And it's literally been on every, like, ESPN televised game.
This is not the end of us watching the Dodgers and the Padres play. For one, the Padres aren't even in second place right now. They're in third in that division. They're not even in second.
Who's in second?
I don't know. But anyways.
Where are they in the NL West?
They're third in that division. So why fucking publicize this Padres game? Because they're not even in second place. It doesn't even matter at this point in time. But they're going to shove it down our throats every single time
The Giants
they play. Yeah, the Giants.
Damn.
They've been good our whole lives, dude.
Yeah,
They've kind of been irrelevant, but they've kind of been really good our whole lives.
Well, they had that stint that, like, every even year they won a World Series.
I'm telling you, dude. You, like, don't think of them as a threat, but then they just keep on winning.
Well, they had a lockdown catcher for a long time.
Yeah.
And, Buster Posey.
Yeah.
They had Bumgarner for a long time. And then that crackhead out in right field for a long time who could somehow swing a bat. What was his name? Hunter Pence?
Hunter Pence.
Yeah, dude. He was so good at baseball. But, like, if I watched his highlight, I'd be like, there's no way this guy's good.
I would have thought he was, probably some dude from Idaho that's slinging potatoes.
Yeah, right.
But moving back, you're trying to distract from what everyone needs is more Padres Dodgers shoved down their throat.
Dude, we need
from
them
talking heads
on Monday Night Baseball, Wednesday Night Baseball, Thursday afternoon baseball, Saturday afternoon baseball, and Sunday Night Baseball.
But Fernando Tatis is back.
He is back.
Dingers back from his shoulder injuries. I think he's hit 5 home runs since he's been back. Yeah. Well, first of all, Bauer tells Tatis if he needs a sign, just ask him.
Ooh.
Because during the first at bat, when Tatis goes yard, there's a quick second when Tatis peeks back at the catcher right before Bauer throws.
Ooh.
And I don't know how I feel about this.
Trying to see where he's set up at?
Specifically, the video in context, Tatis didn't look at the sign. The sign was already said and down. Tatis did see the catcher slide out over the plate. It was like it was kind of, the catcher was moving. Tatis looked at the same time. So you can be like, oh, he's kind of sliding outside. And then Tatis continues to take it was probably 5 inches outside. It was a cutter, like 5 inches outside, and he takes it deep.
Ooh.
So it's kind of like, there's no way someone reaches across the plate like that unless they're kind of thinking that this is going to be outside anyway. Bauer was upset about it. Tatis rounding the bases, being the Tatis he is in the showboat, covers one eye while he's rounding the base to reference back in spring training when Bauer was striking people out with one eye closed, saying that he needs to challenge himself. Well, now Tatis is challenging you. He's looking at your signs, and he's hitting dingers off you. So there's some shit. There's always shit going around Trevor Bauer.
There are.
I miss him with the Reds.
I think he causes it. But I want to say something on that. So I think it's bad to be looking at the catcher when he's giving signs. Like, I think that's kind of like an unwritten rule of baseball. Like, you don't do that.
Definitely an unwritten rule.
I don't really think it's that bad to look back to see where the catcher's set up at. Because, like, at that point, like, the catcher's already moved. And so what's the difference between, like, looking over at the catcher or, like, looking at the shift to see where the shift's at? You know what I mean? Like, I don't see a problem with that. I mean, as a pitcher, do you have a perspective on that?
I played in high school, and I've never ever in my entire life seen someone peek back at where the catcher's looking.
I have.
I've never, if I did, I never noticed it. I've never, as a batter, even thought to turn around and see where the catcher's lined up.
Listen to this shit.
I mean, at the high school level, let's be honest, everyone talks about how talented everyone is at the high school level, but they're not.
Yeah.
And even if the catcher's lined up outside, that motherfucker's high and in, you know. Right. You don't know where the fuck is going.
So obviously we're comparing high school baseball to MLB. Very drastic. But I think this was last week's conversation, but do pitchers actually intentionally throw at people? Like, yes, they do, but like, can you prove it? Well, here's my proof that they actually do. I remember this exactly how it happened. I was catching, I remember who was pitching, and I remember who the coach was. The coach walked out, called a meeting. The infielder, like, he specifically waved off the infielders. It was like just me, the pitcher, and the coach. And we stood there, and there was a guy on second base. And the coach was pissed because the catcher, or the...
How old were you?
Whatever JV baseball is.
Oh, okay.
So,
baseball. Yeah.
I don't know.
Freshman, sophomore.
Sophomore year, maybe.
Yeah.
So the second baseman was literally holding up what I was signaling in my crotch, like what the pitch was going to be. And our head coach was like, fuck that guy on second base. We're throwing at the batter. And he literally said that. He said, fuck the guy on second base. We're throwing at the batter. And this guy, dumbest thing I've ever seen a coach do. So the pitcher threw at the batter, didn't successfully do it, threw behind the guy. And, I mean, it's wildly impossible to try to catch a ball behind a batter.
Yeah.
Like, so I missed it, pass ball, guy advances the third, calls another meeting. Fuck this guy, we're throwing at the batter. I'm like, okay, well, if you're going to throw at the batter, actually hit the guy. And so the same thing happened.
It's hard to think. If you don't throw hard, the batter can just duck out of the way.
Right.
Yeah.
But the same exact thing happened. Threw behind him, missed him, passed ball, looked bad on me. Dude scores. I'm like, so what was your intention there? Like, you wanted
to hit the fucking guy.
Yeah, well, maybe next time.
Teach him a fucking lesson.
Well, maybe next time that guy's up to bat, we try to hit that guy. This batter did nothing wrong. So, but yeah, that is my one story, claim to fame. Like, this coach literally said, fuck this guy, we're going to hit the batter.
I mean, I remember I was probably in 8th grade. I don't know. I was playing with the team, and there was a play at home plate, and I slid into home, and the catcher basically pulled like Castellanos on me. Like I slid under him, so I didn't try to take him out. Like, I did a proper play, slid under him, and he tagged me and like stood over me, and it pissed me off. And I was the pitcher, and he was like literally like next in order, and that was the end of the inning. And coach was like, "All right, I'm taking you out," and I was like, "I want to hit him." And the coach said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "All right." He let me go in. I threw at him. I missed him twice, and then I hit him. And he knew it was obviously on purpose because I threw behind him twice. And I hit him with the third pitch. We were 8th graders, so we weren't going to really fight. So he was like kind of pissy. And then coach came and took me out of the game. I was like, you know, my coach was just all about that shit. He's like, "It's going to be fun." I'm just coaching 8th grade baseball. I don't give a shit what happens, dude.
That's just like when Amir Garrett fought the Pirates. He like literally called and was like, "You better get a guy up. I'm going to fight this dude."
That John Boy video breakdown cracks me up. The skipper literally comes out and he's like, "Oh, you're going to do what?"
Yeah. Oh, shit.
Get an arm. Yeah. He's doing the get an arm sign. And he just takes the ball and then pats Amir Garrett on the butt. And Amir Garrett takes off. It's like, you know, nothing was said besides like, "I'm going to go fuck him up.
I'm going to go fight this guy."
Like, okay.
You fought a dude, or no, you didn't. You almost fought a dude in baseball, didn't you? Like outside of the baseball diamond?
Oh, no. Our team got in a fight, and I ran over there, but I didn't make it there in time.
Damn.
Yeah, in the
you
parking lot.
threw a haymaker anyway.
Yeah. I get really mad at some guy from Cupcath one day.
Huh.
He's a big douche. But no, didn't find anyone.
Huh. I don't know where we're at here.
Trevor Bauer's not going to fight anyone. Is the story? He's going to get on his little mobile Twitter, and he's gonna fight him with words because he's Trevor Bauer. Think Trevor Bauer can fight?
Probably not. I mean, he'd probably like
Tatis.
fight you and I, but like professional athletes, probably not.
Also, we got the MLB turning into the NFL because what's a catch and what the fuck's a replay?
We don't know.
I don't know if this is like the evolutionary track. Like if God puts us on Earth, He makes monkeys. Monkeys automatically turn into humans. Humans put replay into sports. Replays automatically fucking turn into dog shit. I have been noticed all year that MLB has been fucking up the replays so bad, and they're using the same logic that the NFL does. Is like, oh, it's like not super clear. You're like, no, the purpose of the replay is to get the call right. Not to say that there is 100% without a doubt, no doubt in my entire mind that this is safe, you know?
Right.
Like you can clearly see someone's safe or out or vice versa, and they don't make the call because it wasn't clear, you know? It's like, yes, it was. Mm-hmm. Like I knew it, the announcers knew it, everyone knew it, but it wasn't close enough. Like fucking stop doing that. Just get the calls right. But basically there was a foul ball and Buster Posey runs back to get it. It's a pop foul, and it's right at the fencing netting in the back of home plate. He reaches up. He actually does a pretty nice play. He takes he's right-handed. So he pushes the fence with his right hand. So it's out of the way. The net is out of the way. Kind of catches it with his glove on his left hand. And as it's closing, mid-close, the ball's kind of settled in his glove. Mid-close, the net kind of reaches in and touches the ball. Mid-close. So as a normal person watching this, like I said, he caught the ball, but the net kind of touched the ball in the middle of the catch. There's no way that net was the reason he caught the ball. He was going to catch the ball regardless. The ball was in the glove before it touched the net, so the batter's out. MLB decided that it was too close to call, and that the net interfered with the ball, which I would say definitely did not interfere with the ball, but that's my personal opinion. And they called the batter like a strike, like it was just a strike. Mm-hmm. So he was technically, I guess, safe on the call. He wasn't out, so I guess he's safe. But he gets a strike. Weird.
What?
Weird. But in the complete story, the batter was actually the other team's pitcher, so it didn't really matter, and he struck out on the next pitch. So all of this does not matter at all. What I'm pissed off about is that MLB's replay has been awful this year, and I don't know why. It's like an evolutionary process of a replay that it gets worse and worse and worse and worse over time, where we can't even understand what it catches.
I agree. I think that one thing that I always thought was kind of shitty with the MLB is that the refs on field are not the ones watching the replay and making the decision. It's somebody in New York.
It's almost like a hack, like because the manager comes out and is like, "The fuck." My catcher just caught that thing. I know it was close to the fence, but he caught it.
Right, and then you gotta be like, well, Jim Bob in New York.
It's always the same answer. Like the umpires are like, I didn't make the call.
Yeah,
they
like,
just told me what to say.
The dude in New York was the one who.
So it's like the manager has no say and no reason to go out there and argue. It's just a weird situation.
I think
agree with that too.
Remember how I think the NFL kind of went back to that, but how the refs would kind of run off the field and go into that little hut and like watch a thing. Right. I think that the MLB, and especially with tablets nowadays, like we could literally bring a tablet out and they could watch the replay live. And I feel like that would give a better feel for the game as well.
Well, the MLB, I thought when they first implemented the rule, they did a really good job.
Yeah.
Like they were getting all the calls right. The close calls, they were still getting right. You know why you get them right? Is because you have like 1,000 frames per second where you can slow that shit down and get it right. But
in
like
4K.
I don't know what their rule is. They're like, well, if it's not within 60 frames, it's not close enough. I'm like, no, it is close enough because you got it in the frame and it's an out.
You know what's crazy? I like in replay, especially when teams play in a dome, how they have the cameras above each base and then it's like kind of zoomed down onto it.
Yeah.
I think that that's cool. I don't know how it works. I guess drone footage, but some people who are not in domes even have that camera angle of way aerial view of the bases. Have you ever seen that?
I don't know if I don't know. I know what you're talking about, and I can picture it, but I can't think of a scenario.
It gives a different perspective, especially with like the catcher throwing down to second. Like it gives a way better angle.
Oh, I can see that of a tag.
Of a tag,
it would
yeah.
work really well with the tag.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially
but
at home plate too.
I don't know. I feel like MLB did a really good job when they implemented it, and they're like, it's super fast. Just some random dude up in New York just figures this shit out and gets it right. I just think the dude in New York's just starting to get it wrong.
Fire him. Just like the NFL guy. Fire him too, I guess.
And last thing I want to hit on in the MLB is that fans have been going absolutely full suicide mode to catch home run balls this year.
Yeah.
2 in a row this week.
What is this about?
Javi Baez hit a grand slam the other day, and the fan was above this section of seats that was tarped off. So it's just tarp above the seats. You can't get in the seats because it's all tarped off. It's just a clean tarp that says Cubs on it.
Yeah.
And this dude literally dove on top of the tarp and then rolled down like a roly-poly after this ball on top of what you know is not
hurt.
What you know is not soft because it's just the top of hard seats covered in a tarp.
Do you remember a few
specifically after that, the Reds, Suarez hit a home run. And this guy literally, nachos, beer in hand, he takes one step on top of the seat in front of him. Not like the flat part. Like he steps on top of the backrest of the seat in front of him and then jumps up in the air for the baseball.
Was he trying to take it off the chest?
He doesn't catch the baseball and then goes like 3 rows down and just crashes and burns on the seats below. I'm like, what in your mind?
Like it's a baseball.
Thought that you could just jump down 3 sets of bleachers and catch this baseball. You guys got to figure this out. Like, you either wait for it to stop and then you run around and get it, or you don't catch it.
Did you hear about that fan that was on this is probably 10 years ago now, but on the second deck and they were leaning over the railings? Yeah, it was Texas and they fell. Did they pass away or not?
They did, yeah. That was, I'm
That's
not sure
crazy.
how long ago. That was actually the ex-Reds player, I think, that threw them the ball. But they threw up the ball to him and they threw it short. So it was a dad and a son. The dad was leaning over the railing, trying to get the ball, ended up flipping off the railing.
Damn, that's crazy.
And the dad fell to his death, and his son was just sitting up there like,
oh, fuck, my dad.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that, but
that was super sad. Hopefully that never happens ever again.
It's a baseball. I mean, like, it's cool to get a baseball, but, like, it's a fucking baseball, dude. Like, it's worth your life. I don't know. I could be saying that just because I've gotten, like, a handful of baseball.
Here on Gridiron Garage, we're both Red fans, and Griffin is a Cubs fan.
Boo.
And I dream. I don't think I would ever do it because it's so mean, but I dream of going to a Reds-Cubs game, catching a Cubs home run,
and throwing it back.
Right in front of Griff. Like, literally, like catching it and then making that, like, friendly face to Griffin, like, turning to him, like, I'm going to give him this ball that Javi Baez just hit me. And Griffin reaches out for it, and I just go, chuck it back onto the field. It would be so great.
Dude, he would be so pissed at you.
I don't think I'm mean enough to do it. But for some reason, dude, it's reoccurred in my mind so many times how funny that would be to watch Griffin's face as I just chucked the Javi by his ball back.
That one game that we went to where I like straight roasted Griff, I probably would have threw it back.
We get a little bit of brute up in here.
A little bit of brute. Andre brute.
You have any MLB you want to talk about?
I mean, fire David Bell. That's it. Next subject.
Next subject. Moving on to the NFL. The draft is Thursday, April 29th.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Which is on my birthday. And I've heard a lot of stories of how difficult the scouting has been for the COVID years that have come in the past and all the NFL bust that's going to happen.
That's crazy.
So, I mean, I can understand that there's less film on individuals and there's less combine numbers and everything else that adds up to why you pick someone that there's less of.
Well,
so
they didn't do the combine this year, did they?
No.
I didn't think so.
No, but they've done similar kind of task. Like they know what the
Like
player's
pro days
capable
and
of. Yeah. So without all that stuff, everyone is saying that there's going to be a lot of NFL bust, which I think is pretty fun.
Yeah, that was pretty fun. So
It's like a bunch of lotto picks, dude. So what I'm seeing here is that the Bengals are going to get a second round pick and a first round talent.
ooh.
Not.
Dude, if Jamar Chase drops to the second round, just like T. Higgins, ooh, that'd be sweet. Sweet. So, do you want to talk about it? The argument that we keep having about the Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson? You wanna bring it up?
I mean, we can. I personally do not believe that Justin Fields plays anything like Lamar Jackson. I think that there are some NFL comparisons. I don't know if it's the best to like compare someone to an NFL player because they're obviously not. They haven't performed at that level. It's almost a disrespect to the NFL player to say, this guy plays like you. And you're like, no, that guy's in college.
Right.
That guy has not played in the NFL. That guy does not play like me. But I don't think that he's specifically a runner. I think that he sits in the pocket a lot longer than Lamar Jackson. I think that he does his scrambles that end up in rushing yards also come from non-designed run plays. They come from plays that break down, which I know Lamar's does sometimes. But just watching how he plays, I do not think that he plays like Lamar Jackson.
And so, for those of you kind of just turning in, I made that comparison a few weeks ago, and absolutely just getting shit on, which doesn't really bother me because I also said in that same podcast that he's not exactly like Lamar Jackson. I think that he's like Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson a little bit more.
I do as well.
But I don't know what the biggest problem is because literally, you can probably clip it. I don't know what I said exactly, but my thing is that what Jake kind of just said is like when Justin Fields gets out of the pocket, that's what reminds me of Lamar Jackson. Of if the play is falling or is crumbling down, then Justin Fields can get out of the pocket and still make a play. Like
I don't think his talent is near of what Lamar Jackson's was.
I don't think so either.
As well as in open field making players miss, and his straight line speed's good, but not Lamar Jackson good.
No, and I totally agree with that. And like the fact that I'm getting shit on for this is just like I don't even know why I'm talking about it. But it's like I don't think that he is.
It wasn't in the notes.
I don't think he's 100% Lamar Jackson. I just think that there are some things that I see like, oh, that kind of reminds me of Lamar Jackson. But I think that I did make a really good point, and I'm going to bring this up because Griff's not here. But Justin Fields is just like Russell Wilson, dude. Hyped up every year, falls off mid-season, and can't even win an MVP trophy.
I don't know if you guys know. Probably most of you listening do know, but me and Zach love to hate on Russell Wilson.
Love it.
Because you know what it is with Russell Wilson? And that is not that he's a bad quarterback, because he's a great quarterback.
He's
a good quarterback. What it is that you cannot make any criticisms about this guy without everyone freaking out and telling you how like you can't criticize this guy.
Right.
You can obviously criticize. He has done nothing in his career that grants him immunity from any criticism. Nothing. He has not done one thing. He won a Super Bowl. I guess theoretically, I cannot.
Let's break that Super Bowl down.
I mean, you can break it down, but that year specifically, I would say I'll lay off that year because the goal of football is to win a Super Bowl, and technically he did it. But
hold
he
on,
does not
no.
grant immunity.
No. And my biggest thing with Russell Wilson is the elite term that gets thrown on the back of his name. Like and the thing that's going to get taken away from this comment from the both of us.
He's going to be thrilled.
I know he's going to be thrilled. But he is a great quarterback. You agree with that, don't you?
Yeah.
He is not an elite level quarterback, and that is our biggest problem with Russell Wilson. And so that year that he supposedly, in air quotes, won the Super Bowl, he went 18 for 25 and threw 206 yards with 2 touchdowns. And you know how he got the ball for those 2 touchdowns? Literally, the defense, the number 1 defense in the league of that year, had 4 turnovers versus arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play in Peyton Manning.
You know what I was thinking of the other day? This was not a stat that I have on hand about Russell Wilson or anything related to them, but I was thinking of, I think an average NFL game, an offense has around 10-ish opportunities to score. They have about 10 drives. Obviously, we know that teams like Kansas City play really fast and score really fast, so they get more opportunities to score. If you were an offense that scores 35 points in 12 attempts, you would theoretically be a worse offense than the offense that scores 28 points in 8 attempts.
I'm not following.
No?
No. Explain it again. Just the number part.
Okay, so if you were an offense in 12 attempts, so you get 12 offensive drives, and you score 35 points,
Okay.
you are a worse offense than an offense that scores 28 points, which is less points
And less drives.
in less drives than 8 drives.
Yeah.
So your points per drive
Is higher.
higher.
Gotcha.
So obviously the other team would get less opportunities to score 28 points, which you scored in that same amount of time.
Right.
I would be curious. Maybe that's something I'll do is look into points per drive. And if the good offenses that we believe are good are good in points per drive. And I would also be curious to say that maybe I underestimated the Buccaneers because they did not play super, super fast like Kansas City, right?
They did not.
If I underestimated the Buccaneers offense by looking at total yards, total touchdowns, offensive score per game, things like that, when maybe they were scoring at a higher percentage of drives.
Right. More
than a
efficient, essentially.
Yeah,
is
they'd
what
be
you're saying?
more efficient.
Right.
But they would take more time. So if you have 12 drives on offense, that means the other team at least has 11, probably 12, maybe 13 drives on their side to
Right.
score more than you do.
Right.
So if you're more efficient, you have a better chance of winning the game, even though you scored less points.
That makes sense. And I just want to say, with the whole Russell Wilson thing, we both said that he's a good quarterback. And I know that we beat this into the ground day after day after day. But just because he won a Super Bowl, that's a great accomplishment. But that defense, that Super Bowl, was literally the number one offense versus number one defense. And that defense held Denver to the lowest points that they scored all year. That has to say something about how well a defense played and how bad a quarterback played.
Yeah, it takes the whole team for sure.
Right.
We also want to say, since Griff isn't on the pod, that Andy Dalton does not deserve all the shit that these freaking fans are giving him. Dude, if you are up in, the Bears.
Chicago?
If you're up in Chicago, be nice to Andy, dude. He's a good guy.
Very good guy.
He has a long career. Look at his entire career of stats that are pretty fucking decent.
Yeah.
And he has a year, maybe 2, that aren't. So quit focusing on those 2 years. Think about the 12 years of stats that you have of Andy Dalton. That's not shit.
And what did you say the other day that was spot on about me and my teams?
Oh, yeah. So Griffin and Zach were arguing because me and Griffin are on the side that we don't think Andy Dalton deserves this shit that Cowboys and Bears fans have been giving him because they've been absolutely
No. Hold on.
roasting this guy.
Me and you were on the same page.
Yeah, me and you were on the same page. And basically, he was calling us a homer. And I was like, there's no way Zach's a homer because this motherfucker talks shit about David Bell every fucking day in my entire life. And it pisses me off. If he was a homer, he wouldn't talk so much shit about David Bell.
Or Zach Taylor.
Or is it? Well, I agree with you on Zach Taylor.
Yeah, but
the David Bell one kind of pisses me off.
right. I just want a winning team. But yeah, that's my thing with Andy Dalton.
Yeah, if someone was on our team for how long? Do you know how long Andy was on our team? It was a long time. 10 years?
I think it was 11 years.
11 years. So if someone was on your team for 11 years and you personally believed that they were the reason that your team did not win a single playoff game, would you like that player? No.
No.
Because we don't personally believe it's Andy Dalton's fault that the Bengals were not good for 11 straight years when he was on the team.
Right.
Which they were good for some of it, but they didn't
were.
win a playoff game.
But even when they benched Andy Dalton and put in Ryan Finley, the team was still bad. So it was just an overall bad team that Andy Dalton was a part of. Just like when he went to the Cowboys, it was an overall bad team that Andy Dalton was a part of.
Whenever he was starting, that offensive line was so poor.
It was.
At the times he was starting.
Head coach was bad.
He doesn't deserve the hate. I would say I'd probably agree that he's getting a little older and he might not be in his prime.
Right.
But if you're the Bears, quit treating him like he's the worst Bears quarterback of all time because he's not even close.
No, not even close.
He's not even close. Give Andy Dalton some respect, and he's your quarterback. I don't care what you think. He's your quarterback, so put some faith in him, and let's see where he can take you. He doesn't have to be the best quarterback in the world for the Bears to win.
Right.
So
He played for the Bengals for 9 seasons.
quit
to
being
clarify
dicks.
that.
Quit being dicks, Bears.
Yeah, and same with the Dallas fans. I mean, quit being dicks. Like, you guys literally had a shitty team. Like, you cannot pin that on Andy Dalton. You guys almost won. You guys almost won the division. That shitty division you guys are in. You almost won.
They were the worst division ever.
They were.
But we're going to move on. Griff's going to be literally cussing in his car, and it's going to be so great.
I mean, we had to bring it up. We had to.
I've seen a lot of talk lately about teams trading picks for, like, trading up in the draft.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when teams trade up in the draft, the first thing you think is they're going to trade a player, but that's not often what happens. What happens is they trade future picks for a pick up in the draft. So they will trade a first-round pick for an earlier first-round pick in this draft specifically, plus cash, or however the trade works. But overall, if you look at the values and how the teams value the picks, is that future picks are valued far, far, far less than the current pick.
Right.
So if I give you a pick 2 years from now, it's going to have to be much, much better than the pick that you are giving me this year.
Mm-hmm.
So why do teams value the future pick less?
I think it's because, like,
Is it because they know what they're getting?
yeah, like they know what they're getting now, and I feel like they don't know what's going to happen in the future, like where their team's going to be at and what needs they're going to need in 2-3 years.
So I guess, yeah, if you are the other team that, say, has a top 5 pick in the draft this year,
Right.
and someone wants to trade you for your top 5 pick, you're going to say, well, your first round pick in 2 years could be a 28 round pick, like a 28th pick.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to trade you a straight up first round for a first round, because that could be a worse first round than my first round.
Right.
So is that why they're valued less? Just because the unknown factor, or is it that if you are in that fourth round, that fourth pick, you know what that other team wants, and you can just milk them?
Yeah. I think that's it. And there
Like
was also,
if say a select player comes on, because they don't make those decisions till like the time of. I mean, they kind of understand what other teams are going to do, but till that time of, and that other team calls them up, and they're like, "Oh, you really want this guy?"
right.
So I don't know. Maybe if it's that little bit of negotiation tactic of them knowing the other team really wants that guy.
Well, it's just like a few years ago, the Bengals were going to draft now Pittsburgh Steelers linebacker Devin Bush, and the Steelers literally traded up to the pick right before the Bengals and took him.
No doubt.
No doubt. And it's just like, I don't know, like, I just don't think, like, I think that you pick the guy now who has kind of proven themselves.
I like those picks. I think that's underrated, is to get a team in your own division's good player.
Yeah.
Like, it happens kind of a lot in baseball, so I think they understand it a little more than football. But if you can steal a rival's team in football, if you can steal a good player from their team, you make that division worse, and you played that team without their good player that's all now on your team twice.
Yeah.
So I think even if you look at equal players from divisional teams and a non-divisional team, you would be better off trading or acquiring the player from the divisional team, your rival, onto your team.
Well, you also play that team twice a year.
Yeah, and they're one less player, and you're that player more.
Right.
That you play twice a year. It's cool. I don't know if a lot of people think about that.
I'm sure that, like, the NFL executives do, but, like, the common person that listens to this podcast, probably not.
You see it a lot in Major League Baseball. You see someone get traded within division.
Like Devin Mesoraco, or not even in division.
Yeah, that's not of it.
But I was just saying, within the same series, that's wild.
Anyways, this was kind of just be spitballing away. A couple podcasts ago, I had the dumbass idea of what if an NFL team was to just straight up trade for another NFL team. I like your team, you like my team. Let's swap it up. And this time, I said, what if the Bengals traded away their 2050, 2051, 2052, and 2053 round picks
In 2021?
for their 2021 first round picks. Like, how many picks could they get? Like, theoretically, could you trade away enough future round picks to get the entire NFL draft? Like the first round, the entire first round.
Oh, damn.
Draft.
Oh,
like, how many picks would you have to give up in 2050 or farther?
Probably a lot. But here was my thing. So,
like, you could absolutely build a dream team from the draft.
You probably could, but
you just literally give up. You probably have the worst team in all of history in
for 20 years, 30 years. But my thing with this is because I was reading the layout, I was like, okay, just because you own an NFL team or a CEO of a company doesn't mean that you're smart. Like, you kind of just, could have kissed the right asses, or you could have actually worked your way up. But if some team traded for a first round pick for 30 years later, that is the dumbest executive I've ever met in my life.
Until 30 years goes by, and then they're the best.
But who's going to remember that in 30 years?
Imagine right the fuck now. Imagine if the Bengals had 2-3 first round picks. You're like, well, why? You're like, oh, well, back in 1980, the Bengals traded away a pick.
That'd be so dumb. That's just like the Mets paying that dude like $1 million a year for like 30 years.
It is dumb. It was just a dumb idea. We don't even have to entertain it.
I mean, I like the funniness of it because that would be funny.
Obviously not realistic.
Be like, the Bengals traded away the 2050 first round pick, but
like, my lifespan is only so short, so just trade away. Like, at the end of my lifespan, just trade away all those picks.
They would for sure lose me as a fan. If they were thinking 30 years down the road, like, we're building a winning team in 30 years, I'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to go root for another team for 30 years, and then I'll be back.
You got to trick a team like the Lions or something. Like, huh?
Tom Brady might still be playing.
30 years?
30 years from now. Would he be 74?
Oh, you got any other NFL news?
No, man.
Nope. Kind of slow. Obviously, it's off season for NFL. The draft is coming up, and I think we'll probably have a lot to talk about.
Oh yeah, I think next week it'll start
next week's pod
picking up a little bit.
Come join us next week on our sports podcast, where we'll probably cover the NFL draft.
We also might have a interview next week,
and we'll have an interview next week. Maybe.
Yeah, we will.
We will. People love our podcast.
Yeah, they do. But
moving on, we got a little bit of MMA last week. We had the UFC fights.
261. I will say, hands down, I've been watching the UFC ever since I was a wee little lad. And that was probably one of the.
Since your dad got ESPN Plus.
I didn't even watch it this weekend.
Oh no!
So I'm kind of I didn't know how ESPN Plus worked. I thought if you bought ESPN Plus, then you got all the pay-per-view fights for free.
No, you get the non-pay-per-view fights for free.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it sucked. But anyways, from probably since I was, I don't know, I'd say 6th grade, I've been, from what I can remember, watching the UFC, and 261 was probably one of the best fight cards that I saw that I could watch. And then I watched the highlights of the pay-per-view stuff on like Instagram. Mm-hmm. Dude, even like the first card guy, like they came out 130 probably just swinging haymakers at each other. And I felt like these two nobodies set the tone for that whole fight. And dude, once it got to like people getting knocked out, people getting tapped out, like I think only one fight went to card.
Yeah.
One or two. Yeah, like one of the prelim fights. I don't know how the pay-per-view fights, but I wanted to buy this fight so bad. And even like Joe Rogan was hyping it up. This is probably one of the best fights that he's seen in a long time, dude.
I would argue that.
No,
I don't know
argument.
what number it is, but the MMA or the UFC fight where Connor fought, what is his name? And he jumped into the crowd. Khabib. That was a crazy card because before that fight, which was crazy, was the fight where the Black Beast literally got his Derek Lewis got his ass beat for I don't even know how many rounds, 5 full rounds, and then knocked a dude out with a crazy haymaker, and then was funny as fuck after he knocked him out.
Derek, why are your pants off?
It's hot in here.
My balls are off.
Thought Joe Rogan's gonna go smoke some pot with him.
You're like, let's go smoke some pot. He's like, well, come on my podcast and we can smoke some pot.
I think that was a great card.
Dude, but I'm looking forward to the Conor Poirier rematch.
What you sent me earlier on Instagram was Jake Paul tweeting or Instagramming, I don't know, messaging out to Dana White.
Yep.
Saying that he underpays his fighters and that Jake Paul made more money in his first fight than that any UFC fighter has ever made in one fight.
Other than Conor and Khabib.
Oh, is that like quoted down there?
Yeah, it is in there.
Oh, okay.
But
so basically he's saying that
but think about it,
I'm just a random ass boxer that's not even professional and I made more than all of your pro fighters.
But you got to think about it, even though it was one fight, there's 260 other UFC fights that he has made more money than 260 UFC fights.
Yeah.
So
no, 200 more than that. There's 260 cards.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, so they're they're like 1,000.
Right. But I mean, you know what I was trying to say. But yeah, I think so. The argument to be had here is UFC underpaying their athletes, and should they be paying more? And I think absolutely yes, they need to be getting more money. But here's the other, like, there's always two sides to every story. We only see, okay, Conor McGregor is guaranteed a $8 million purse if he wins, plus pay-per-view. What's the plus pay-per-view? You know what I mean? Like, you can't really put a number on that before the fight because you don't know how many people are actually going to buy it. So Jake Paul could be talking about, oh, I made... let's say Conor McGregor makes $8 million for fighting Dustin Poirier. Okay, well, he made $8 million, but he also made $30 million off of pay-per-view. You know what I mean? Like, Jake Paul, I kind of feel like he wouldn't have got $8 million. I'm just saying.
He got the fuck knocked out of him.
Yeah, he did. Round 3, dude. The series is tied 1-1. But you know exactly what I'm saying. Is like, we never hear how much pay-per-view money they get, and I feel like Jake Paul is only looking at, like, that's your base salary is $8 million for this fight. But you're also making a couple more million on top of that from pay-per-view.
You know what I see is that I am a fan of boxing and I like the sport, but boxing is very corrupt. And it's corrupt because of the money. It's corrupt because of the power that the individual boxer had received. Mm-hmm. That the individual boxer is more powerful than the entire corporation on their own. Like, they literally can't afford to lose that boxer. That boxer has so much power that, I mean, if someone is going to make you hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars if they fight, and if they don't fight, you're going to lose $100 million.
Right.
That is such an invaluable asset to your company as a boxing organization. What I think the UFC has done a great job of is that they have managed to build up fighters in the past, but they really focus on building the sport as a whole, where one fighter is not, it has been with Conor McGregor, but one fighter has not been the death or rise of the sport.
Right.
Like, if, let's say, what has happened, Conor McGregor's going to fall off is at the end of his career, the sport's not going to die with Conor McGregor. Mm-hmm. Like, boxing, I mean, it's almost died with Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
Like, what is the last, other than this dumb celebrity boxing and whatever we watch, what is the last pro boxing fight you've watched besides Floyd Mayweather? Mayweather.
That's a good point. I was gonna say I've only watched Floyd Mayweather fight twice, and that was Conor McGregor and Pacquiao.
Yeah.
I've never watched him fight his other 48 fights.
And you've probably never had a pay-per-view purchase other than Floyd Mayweather.
Yep.
And I think that is
Jake Paul and Ben Askren, but
we didn't pay.
I didn't pay. Thanks, Bill.
That is something that I think is a huge problem with boxing. And I think if you give the UFC fighters that much control, that much power, that you can lose the power to the fighters. Yeah. On the other hand, is that the fighters are the ones putting on the show. They're the ones making the money. They deserve to get all the money. I don't know. To me, what's fair is not necessarily what I want, because what I want is the best UFC and the best fights put on the card and to be put on the show at a time, which is what I think is what Dana White wants.
Right.
Is he wants the best fights on the card. He really wants to grow the sport, not the individual. But if you're an individual fighter, you want to grow the individual.
Right.
Because that's your monetary goal. Right.
I mean, I agree
So
with
I
that.
like what he's doing with the UFC. Personally, is it the most fair? Maybe not. Is it what I, as a fan, want? Yeah.
Right. So a couple things of that is like, one, and I'm sure maybe somebody knows this, but I don't, is Dana White the only person making decisions on the fight cards? I feel like not. So like, even
Each
though
fighter probably has, I think they have their own like lawyers and everything.
Right. But think about the UFC brand as a whole. Who do we see the face of it as? Like, even though is he still the owner? Or,
Dana White?
Yeah. Or did he sell off?
Yeah, I think he's still his majority owner.
Okay, well, Dana White is like the face of UFC. Do we know the other guys who own the other half of the UFC? No. Like, could they be influencing him to like, oh, you need to get another, you need to get Khabib back out of retirement and like make him fight. So I think to go on Instagram or Twitter or whatever as Jake Paul and be like, fuck Dana White, like he's making, whatever Jake Paul said, like he's not picking the best fights. Like I feel like he's not the only one picking the fights. So I feel like that's kind of shitty. But I do agree with you. Like I think the UFC is doing a very great job of building the brand of the Ultimate Fighter. Because from my early days, I remember, like Chuck Liddell, Anderson Silva, like those guys are what I, kind of put myself into the UFC. Now it's Khabib and Conor, now Dustin Poirier.
If you want to see how money and influence can change the sport, you can just look at Dustin Poirier.
His last name's so hard to say.
You can look at him because he has the opportunity right now to probably go get his own title fight. Mm-hmm. And he chose not to be a belt holder. He chose not to take the title fight. He chose to chase the money, which is the power of what gets created when you give the individual fighter so much power and so much money and influence, as Conor McGregor has. Is he chose that money and that influence to go beat Conor again over literally being a world champion in the UFC.
Isn't that belt vacant?
I'm not sure, but I mean, even if it's vacant, he still has to fight for it.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
this could be like him working towards a title fight. Because didn't Khabib hold that belt in that weight class?
I think so. I think that his next fight, if he did not choose to fight Conor, could have been a title fight. And he chose not to go fight Conor.
And that's like going back to the same thing that I said is like, he is going to pick the fights, like the pay-per-view money.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've already said I'm buying that July 10th. Like that fight is bought. Like my money is gone because I want to watch that fight.
But if you're Dana White and you want to put the best fighters on the card at a time, and you have what would be your championship fighter backing out of the championship fight to go fight Conor,
yeah,
that's not necessarily what you want to give the best card to the people.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know.
But anyways, I
think we're going in circles with this.
for sure. Do we want to talk about NBA?
Not really, but we can.
Steph Curry hit his 83rd three-pointer in 1 month.
And that's the show.
The world record, I guess, was it a world record? Guinness hold it? No. But breaking the NBA record for most three-pointers in a month. 83 to Steph Curry. Probably the best point guard of all time.
I'm not saying it. I don't know enough basketball.
I don't know either.
I'm a sports podcast.
Steph Curry is the best point guard of all time.
Ooh,
if you disagree, go follow us on Instagram.
And you'll get to hear this clip again.
Yeah, that's about all I got.
That's all I got, too.
Thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed the sports segment, episode 57, Gridiron Garage. Please go follow our Instagram, Twitter. Give us 5 stars and a rating. And we out.